long time no see. I have not been around and done a lot of content lately, but I'm not going to get into that right now. If you want to know more, you can check out my Instagram. I may include it at the end of this video, not sure. Let's just get right into it. I'm going to tell you why you should over-plan and under-schedule your next trip or vacation. And I'm going to define what those are so you know what I'm talking about. But vacations should be fun and you should be able to do as much as you want without having a ton of stress. And that is why I kind of developed this method of planning through some not great trips that we took and some incidents that happened because of the way I used to do it that made them not as fun. So I've developed this over time and I'm going to teach you why you should do it. Let me explain what I mean by over planning. When you're getting ready to go on a trip or vacation or whatever, you're going to plan things, you know, what do we want to eat? What sites do we want to see? How we're going to get there? Those are just basic planning things. You should always do those. But I get a little obsessive and I'm not saying you should always do this. Like, I don't just say, what do we want to eat? And we pick one or two restaurants. I pick like all the restaurants we could want to eat at. I pick all the sites that we might want to see that are in the vicinity that's reasonable. I will price out different, travel methods. When I had kids or if you're going with other people, I would ask all of them, okay, what are your top 3 things you want to do? What types of foods do you want to eat? And that might seem like insanity. Like there's no way I'm going to accommodate everybody. Then I'm just asking for like everybody's input and it's going to get crazy. But I will explain why and how to do that in a way that doesn't create more stress. It sounds like it's going to be stressful, but so over planning means you're not just going to pick a restaurant or a type of food and you're not going to just be like, oh, I think we'll stay here and maybe we'll see what's around. You're going to be pretty thorough. You're going to look at all the options. So that's what I mean when I say over planning. Under scheduling. Let me explain what that means. That means instead of having back-to-back-to-back things that you've planned out down to the minute packed into your day, and you know that like at 8 a.m. you're going to be here having breakfast, at 10 a.m. you're going to check into the museum, at noon you're going to eat at this restaurant. It's the opposite of that. Well, maybe not completely the opposite. You are going to have a loose schedule of things you want to maybe see or places you want to eat or things like that for that day, but you're not going to be so rigid. So that's what under scheduling means. Okay, you're going to do less work on the scheduling. You're going to put in just your big basics. That's that part. Let me explain why you might want to overplan. For one thing, the more you plan ahead of the trip or vacation, the more backup plans you'll have. So it happened more than once that I would have like a restaurant or maybe like even an activity that we thought we were gonna do, and we would get there and it would be closed or like a super long wait. And before I started doing this, I was a planner, right? So, I had planned some things out, but I didn't have a ton of backup plans figured out because I was just like, oh, well, we'll eat here and we'll do this. So now I overplan, meaning I look at every restaurant we could possibly want to eat at. I look at what days they're open, what days they're closed, what time they usually have a long wait. Sometimes I even read the reviews for people to say like, come at this time, or in the summer it's a longer wait, or things like that. And I do the same with activities and locations and travel and all that. I just plan so many details. And I'll probably do a separate video on that because that would take a long time to explain my process. But let me just say that my obsessive planning nature gets to shine during the over planning, but it gives you a plan B. So you show up with a car full of hungry people and that restaurant's closed. You just pull out your plan, however you do it. I usually have it on my phone, and I can look instantly. Okay, well, we can't eat at these places because they're also closed today, or different things, but we have these options. It just allows for you to pivot like so quickly. It also allows to discover unexpected places when you overplan, because as you're planning, like, you may not think to search for a certain type of food or a certain type of activity. But if you overplan and you read other people's travel blogs and you are like I love to do, I just float around on Google Maps in the general area of where we're going to be doing other things, and I will find all sorts of cool stuff. Sometimes it'll just be something that would take us a minute. Sometimes it's something that, like, it might take a longer time, but you find unexpected places because you have the chance to look. I know that I've heard from other people that they went on a trip and did stuff and didn't realize how close they were to, like, fill in the blank, this cool restaurant or this neat scenic site or different things, because they just had their schedule and they didn't really look around and they didn't really overplan. So it also creates less stress on the trip. I'm not gonna lie and say that it's less stress before the trip. It may be stressful, but when you're on the trip, then you have all those backup plans, those easy pivots where you can quickly change to something else and have no, starving people or cranky kids or grouchy partner, or if you have pets, different things like that. It allows for a lot less stress on the trip, which is the most important part. It also allows for accommodating other people's requests, like that you ask for, like if you have a kid that loves mini golf, okay? If you overplan, you can find a way to fit in the things everyone wants to do. That doesn't mean every single person will get all of their requests, but you can find a way when you overplan to make sure that everyone gets at least one place they want to eat and one activity they want, which I found makes them a lot more pleasant even when they're doing the things they don't want to do. My son's pretty easygoing, so he wasn't usually like a huge problem creator anyway, but he was outnumbered by 3 sisters who like shopping, and he hates shopping. He hates it. So I would always try to find, like a laser tag or mini golf or something that, that he had requested, and I would put it in the middle of the girl requests. And I mean, sometimes it would be something that he'd be interested in too. But that way, because I overplanned, I could make sure that everybody got something on their trip, so that it's not just my trip, it's everyone's trip. It also will help you be present. And that kind of ties in with the what do you call it? Underscheduling. So I'll go into that in more detail in a minute. But when you overplan, you don't have to sit there frantically trying to find a new restaurant or a new activity or look up the details, and then you're not even involved, right? Because while you're in the museum, you're probably looking up the next stop and trying to figure out all the details. But if you overplan, you don't have to do that. You're so much more present and less stressed. It also can save you money because, like, let's say you're on a budget, which many of us are, you don't have to pivot and then go spend more money doing a different activity or paying a fee you didn't know about, or parking is another issue that can be pretty costly, or even going to a more expensive restaurant because the one you wanted was, a huge wait or something. So those are kind of like reasons why you should overplan. Now, there are challenges to overplanning. Like I mentioned earlier, it is stressful. It can be a lot of work. It can take a lot of time. Whoever's going with you may give you a lot of grief about it, because you're going to be bothering them about what they want to do and trying to pin people down about, times and locations and things like that. It also takes a lot of time up front, like hours. It takes hours and hours to overplan. And maybe for you, you want to be really spontaneous. That's great. And there's no problem with that. And I find that now that it's fewer of us, and even the trip that me and my husband took, just the 2 of us, we could be more laid back about it. But if you have kids or health conditions, pets, any of that, if you're traveling with any of those like extenuating circumstances, even though they're awesome, the over planning, the time will be worth it up front. It will just create a lot less stress, and you'll be able to manage a lot of those things easier. It also seems like with all this over planning, you're going to be like frantic on the trip, like trying to remember all the details and everything. First of all, no. Make sure you have it in a place, like I just use my phone and I have it in actually, sometimes I do docs, sometimes I do just whatever, the iPhone reminders or whatever. You won't actually be more frantic And just know that when you're over planning, you can't over plan to perfection. Like I've had one time we were trying to go out to eat, 3 restaurants were closed. 3. Who plans for like a plan D on their restaurant planning? Like nobody. So nothing's gonna go perfect no matter what. It's just not. When I plan, I also try to, and I'm gonna talk about this more in the scheduling, so I don't wanna go into it too much, but let's just say I plan for things to take longer than you think. And I don't just mean the traveling. I mean the restaurant waits. I mean the time you spend at a museum or amusement park or whatever it is. I always plan things to take a lot longer than what you'd think. So overscheduling. Now, there are times and places for that. Sometimes you have to kind of pack in more than you'd like. You know, you're on a time constraint. Maybe you have like an event, like you could be planning to travel for like a wedding. One, you're not in control of it sometimes. Or it could be that there's just a lot of like things you need to get to at certain times. Sometimes you're gonna pack things in. For the most part, I would tell you, you're gonna have more issues with overscheduling than you are with underscheduling. And I learned this the hard way multiple times. Oh my goodness, yeah. I have some fun stories about that. It's gonna seem like, and I kind of mentioned this before, you're going to miss out if you don't have a really strict schedule. Like if you don't have, you know, every minute spelled out, then you're not going to get to all the things you want to. Quite frankly, unless you're like, I guess, wealthy and you have a month off and you're just taking forever, you're never going to get to all the things you wanted to. You're just not. It's not reasonable. You're not going to get to all the things. And as soon as you think that, 1, it'll help you prioritize to what you really want to be doing. And 2, it takes a lot of pressure off. So overscheduling is actually not helping you achieve the goal of not missing out. And actually you miss out more, because if you're packed in there, especially if you're the trip planner or the, you know, responsible adult or whatever on the trip, while you're doing whatever it is you're doing, eating, museum, shopping, sightseeing, all you're thinking when you're on a tight schedule that you've arranged is, okay, are we gonna make the next thing? We're falling behind, hurry up everybody, all this stuff. And like I said, no plan works perfectly anyway, but you're gonna be extra stressed. And as I said, things take longer than you think. And you don't get to just relax and enjoy the trip, and it actually takes away the spontaneity. So if you have that loose framework, you can be more spontaneous. But when you have that rigid framework, you cannot be spontaneous. So let me explain some of the benefits to underscheduling. So I figured this out kind of in bits and pieces. Like I realized that I wasn't enjoying trips. I realized that I was stressed and thinking like the very next thing we're gonna do and how are we gonna get there and we're falling behind and all this stuff. And I was realizing I really wasn't having a good time. One time we went on a trip and we had planned to go to this kind of cool ghost town with the kids. And I had done my over planning. That's not usually an issue with me. And it had said that it tends to be packed, and especially during the summer, and to get there early and all that stuff. So I think the oldest, I don't know if we had teenagers. We probably had a couple teenagers, but nobody was very old. Like it was a range of maybe like 9 to 14 or something like that age-wise. And I just thought, okay, we'll spend like an hour. We're supposed to meet my husband's sister because we were heading through to see his parents. So an hour, I'm like, that's probably reasonable to get around and see everything. We get there and there's nobody there. Not another person, just us. I mean, the like people that manage the park or whatever, the historic site. And so it was amazing because it's a ghost town, right? So then the kids were they loved it. And I don't even remember how many hours we spent. We went way past my 1 hour. Thankfully, my husband's family is pretty low key and we didn't have any like rigid thing we had to do next. And that was usually my MO, was to plan things rigidly. But I realized then we didn't even get to the mine, which was the whole reason there was this ghost town there, because we spent so much time just wandering around and nobody was there. And it was just such a fun experience. And I realized because I didn't have anything that we really had to do after, I was enjoying it also. And because we didn't have a back-to-back schedule, there was no reason to rush. We could just take our time and everybody was enjoying it so much. Now, the opposite could have been true. We could have got there and they were bored in 20 minutes. Okay, no big deal. So under scheduling allowed for that flexibility. It allows us the space that, let's say you're at a location eating or doing something and you see something cool. Well, if you have a time crunch and you're packed everything in and everybody's got to be doing it at this time, then you don't get that flexibility to say, hey, everybody, what about this place? And then everybody might want to do that, and that would be fun, and it would be something they remember. Oh, remember when we came across that cool place? So there are a lot of benefits to underscheduling. It made a big change for me, being able to enjoy the trip. I don't know if you're really spontaneous, and especially like I said, with me and my husband, it's just us. We can be more spontaneous and I don't have to overplan quite as much. But if you overplan, it allows you to underschedule even more, because let's say they'd been bored with that ghost town. If I'd have been overplanned, I could have said, okay, well, we're done early and we're not expected at his sister's till this time. Oh, well, I've got a couple other cool stops along the way that we don't, that I wasn't expecting that we had to do them. They're just options. So underscheduling really makes a big difference. It's going to reduce your stress. People are going to have more fun. You're going to have that chance to be spontaneous. The next time that you have a trip or even an event or a vacation or anything coming up, just remember, overplan, underschedule. You're going to love it so much more. Now, the overplanning is a lot of work. So if you have someone else in your family or your group that's pretty good at it, you can divide up. You could say, hey, can you overplan the restaurants we're going to eat at? I'll overplan the activities, things like that. I actually enjoy doing it. It is a bit stressful and it takes time, but I don't mind. I really enjoy doing it. And don't forget, even if you are the trip planner, asking other people what they want to do is important. But giving them some time to think about that, sometimes they'll look stuff up too and present things that maybe you hadn't thought of, which one, then it's everyone's trip. And two, it does take some of the stress off you because they've suggested cool places you maybe didn't think of. And then, they got to contribute. So I'm going to tell you my funny trip story. Well, we have multiple, but this funny family trip planning snafu that I had, and then I'll kind of tell you why I've been gone. So I was an overplanner, and I had done my research, and I saw that there was this dinosaur museum in the city where my aunt lived, and we were going to be visiting there. And so the kids were excited. It looked pretty cool. I had one kid that was really into dinosaurs. I asked my aunt about it. She hadn't heard of it, but she didn't have young kids at home, and I figured it was probably new. So we load up all the kids. We're out there, we're driving around. We cannot find this place. We are looking, and I'm like, I have the address correct. I even looked it up again to make sure. Yes, I did. Finally, we realize in this strip mall, in one tiny section, is the supposed dinosaur museum. So I'm like, okay, well, that's weird. And I'm like, well, let's go inside and find out what's going on. And it was just somebody's interpretation of a dinosaur museum. There was a few little fossils and some sketches of what they maybe want to do in the future. And I mean, the kids' faces were just ugh. Thankfully we hadn't driven way out of our way for this, anything like that, but they were just so bummed. And I was like, oh, great. I got everybody hyped up, and now this didn't even happen. So just remember, even if you're an overplanner, it's not going to be perfect. There's going to be stuff that's misleading online. There's going to be things that come up. Don't stress about it, because now we laugh. And anytime something kind of goes not the way we planned, we're like, oh, the dinosaur museum, And so it's become a family joke. So just remember that too. Some of the things that happen, that don't go the right way, either could end up being a really cool experience, or they can at least be a family joke, right? And then, yeah, thanks for sticking to the end. I just was going to give you guys a quick update. Doing good. We just had a lot going on. I had been getting called into sub a lot more than I had been before. We had our final kid graduate from high school, so there was family and graduation parties and all that stuff. I don't know. I feel like there's other stuff too, but yeah, there's just been a lot going on. So I know I keep saying I'm going to be more consistent. I'm going to be on here. Honestly, I might not be. I might not be. You know what? I just do this for fun, and I really want people to comment and engage and everything. But I am a real person and I have a real life, and so sometimes I might not be on here a lot. I try to at least post on Instagram or sometimes Facebook, little updates, but full-length videos, there might be times where I don't have as many and other times I'll have more. So yeah, thanks for joining me. Hope this helps. Please ask questions if there's any part that you don't understand, or if you want some tips and suggestions. And like I said, if you comment that you do want the more detailed, like maybe even like screen capture, and I show you exactly what I do when I plan a trip and how I overplan and under schedule, then yeah, let me know and I might be doing that. So bye guys.